Hi everyone, welcome to the first lecture in this series of lectures on the types of companies. In this very first lecture, I have created a chart which is going to help you visualize the types of companies that we are going to be studying about. So first of all, in this chart, you can see that the types of companies can first and foremost be divided into two main types, that is type A, which is dividing companies on the basis of the level of public involvement in that company, that is by virtue of public involvement. So type A, that is according to public involvement, is the first type of company that we're going to be studying about. And other than this first major division, we have another type which is basically dealing with the types according to members' liability, that is the type of company is dependent, that is it is based on members' liability. By the way, just in case you got daunted by looking at this chart, please let me tell you that it may look scary to you in the beginning. However, once you realize that this chart essentially classifies companies in a very neat manner, you're going to appreciate the fact that it's actually making things simpler. And once you understand how this chart has been formed, it's going to be very easy to remember the various types of companies that we're going to be studying about. Okay, so first of all, like I said, there are two major types. Number one, according to public involvement. Number two, according to members' liability, right? So now we're going to look at the further subdivisions, that is the further classifications. First of all, as far as type A is concerned, that is types of companies according to public involvement, there are two further subcategories, that is A1, that is public companies, and A2, that is private companies. Okay, first let's talk about A1. Public companies can further be subdivided into listed companies and unlisted companies. And now moving on to A2, private company can either be an SMC, that is a single member company, or it can be a company other than an SMC, that is it must have a minimum of 2 members. However, the maximum number is limited to 50 members. So to repeat, A1, public companies can further be subdivided or categorized into listed and unlisted companies, and on the other hand, private companies can be subdivided into either a single member company SMC or a company other than an SMC, that is a company which does not have a single member but can have a minimum of 2 members and a maximum of 50 members. Okay, now moving on to type B, that is companies based on the members' liability. Now, as you can see in this chart, there are 3 such categories of companies. B1 talks about liability limited by shares, B2 talks about liability limited by guarantee, and B3 talks about unlimited liability. So B1, the first one, which is in purple, as you can see, is basically simply liability which is limited by shares. And I've talked about this kind of liability limited by shares, this kind of company, in another video in detail. And I've contrasted this with the other situation, that is B2, which is the situation where a company is limited by guarantee. And in that same video, I've contrasted B1 and B2 type companies, that is companies where the liability is limited by shares and companies where the liability is limited by guarantee. However, in that same video, if you remember, I have also talked about a further subdivision in B2, that is where a company is limited by guarantee. Remember that it is possible for that kind of company to either have share capital or to not have any share capital at all. So just look back at that video if you don't remember what this is about, because in that same video where I have contrasted liability limited by shares and liability limited by guarantee, in that same video I have also talked about the possibility that a company where the liability is limited by guarantee may or may not have share capital. So just look back at that video. Now B3 talks about unlimited liability, and this is covered in another later video that you are going to see, and that follows this video. So just remember to repeat that a company can be divided either on the basis of the level of public involvement or on the basis of the members' liability. That is the major subdivision between the types of companies. And then, of course, they can further be classified into public companies or private companies, or companies where the liability is limited by shares or liability is limited by guarantee, or there is unlimited liability. In later videos, I have elaborated on each of these types of companies, so just look at the later videos which are available in this series of lectures.